Good evening, everyone. India Foundation for the Arts is back with our Project Showcase. As some of you know, India Foundation for the Arts, or IFA, is a nationwide organization that supports and implements projects in the arts and culture across the country. And this we do across various disciplines of the arts. We do that across region, languages, with the various kinds of grant programs that we have. And the outcome of these projects as productions, books, films, exhibitions, archival material are out there in the field for you to witness, for you to enrich yourselves. However, other than supporting and implementing these projects, we also take the opportunity to showcase these projects for you, so we can have a discussion around the incredible work that our grantees and project coordinators do. Since March 2020, when the pandemic hit us, we have started doing these conversations not as physical events with local partners across small towns and cities like we used to do before, but through this online medium. Now, the sharing that's going to happen today is special for an institutional reason as well. In 2020, 2021, yes, the year the pandemic hit us again, was the year that IFA completed 25 years of celebrating the arts. It was our 25th year, and when we were doing the planning for the year in the early parts, which is Jan-Feb, we had thought of many exciting things, like we could do a festival, we could do bring grantees from across the country together. However, in March 2020, when we were hit with the pandemic, a lot changed around us. We saw how difficult our health systems were finding to help people. We looked at how jobs ended overnight, and specifically for the arts and culture community, it became such a disaster with no help coming from anywhere. It so happened that that year was also the year that India as a country completed 25 years of having the internet. And what a weird or serendipitous, I don't know how to describe it, situation that the very year where all of us found ourselves completely locked online in these little boxes was also the year that India could have celebrated actually the 25 years of the internet. So we put all of that together and said that artists need not just support and resources and money, but also opportunities to feel that they can continue to work, to be able to cope with the situation that they have. And could that be around the internet, ruminations, meditations, explorations, experiments on this idea of the internet? And over these 25 years, what kind of relationships have we as people built with it? Out of that came the idea of an initiative that we called 25 by 25. So 25 grants, projects were supported across the country, where artists looked at, in various ways, through their various practices and disciplines, looked at what their relationship was with the internet. And each of them got a very, very small amount of just 25,000 to play with that idea, to work with that idea. And today we are privileged to share one such project with you. And before I hand this over to my colleague Sumana Chandrasekhar to tell you a little more about the project, a few house rules that I'm sure everyone knows by now. This is on the Zoom webinar mode. We are also going live on IFA's Facebook page. In case you have any comments, suggestions, any responses, please do use the chat box that we have here. But at the end of our presentation today, we are going to have an open house for questions about the project. If you have a question, just put it down in the Q&A box. If you are watching us on Facebook, then you can put the question there as a comment under this the streaming live. And somebody from IFA is going to ensure that we get that question. So that's how this is going to be. And So Mana, over to you to give us a little more idea of what today's project showcase is all about. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Arundhati, and very good evening to all our audiences today. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Sandhya Kumar, who is our guest this evening. Sandhya is based in Bangalore. She's an award-winning filmmaker. Her films are rooted in non-fiction and are inspired by the desire to make visible the poetry of everyday life. She has been making documentary films and experimental shorts since 2007. And Sandhya has been the recipient of grants, of course, from the India Foundation for the Arts, but also from the PSPT. And she has also been an ATSA fellow. Sandhya is also the trustee of Vikalp Bengaluru, a filmmakers collective committed to creating platforms for documentary films to reach wider audiences. The project that she made with the grant from the 25 by 25 initiative of IFA enabled her to create this short film that we are going to see today on the impact of internet shutdowns and internet throttling across different regions in India. What we will see now is a film in 3 parts that asks questions on the political, economic, personal, emotional dimensions of internet shutdowns. On that note, I'd like to hand this over to Sandhya to lead this evening. Over to you, Sandhya.
Thank you, Sumana. Thank you, Arundhati, and thank you everybody at IFA. Firstly, for giving me a grant to explore this subject in a rather innovative format for me as a filmmaker. And secondly, for giving me this opportunity to present it several months later, to meet online with people from other cities and to be able to talk about this project. I'm going to begin by I think, introducing the concept of what is an internet shutdown. And then we will perhaps go on to seeing the films. We'll watch the films here. And then we'll talk about the filmmaking process, the creative process, and why I decided to make a film about this. Okay, so beginning with internet shutdowns. It's a term I think a lot of us had heard about, but not really maybe thought about it. I had heard about it in the context of Kashmir, in the context of the anti-CAA demonstrations in Delhi, and the NRC in Assam. But I think only when I started researching for this project did I realize that India topped the world in internet shutdowns, in the number and frequency of the times we switch off the internet. So what does an internet shutdown mean? It means a total ban on mobile, 3G, 4G, LTE, or fixed line, which is dial-up, wired, broadband, wireless, both or either of them, which may be shut down in a specific region. It's usually done region-wise. It's a government mandate. It has to be done by the state governments. Now, governments say that misinformation and rumors can lead to deterioration in law and order in an area. So curbing the flow of information helps maintain peace among communities in times of crisis. Whereas people feel that it is a violation of their basic human rights. It's a violation of their rights to freedom of speech and expression, to occupation, several of the rights that are guaranteed under Article 19 in India. So often we don't even get to know when the internet is switched off. So suddenly you might find your internet is not working and you might be thinking maybe it's something to do with my tower. It might take a few hours for you to realize that actually internet has gone off in your whole city even. So this was the background. I mean, I was just curious. Of course, 25 years of internet is a big monumental event. I mean, I remember so well being in high school when that first email was created, when the first www became part of our language. So for a lot of us, I think in the cities, or at least in Bangalore, where the internet has not been switched off, we cannot empathize and understand what it means for someone, say in Kashmir, where there has been no internet for over 100 days. Or in Rajasthan, where it's routinely switched off in the interest of law and order. So the idea behind these films is really to use the visual, to find visual translations for communicating and conveying what it might feel like to be under an internet shutdown, and to understand the situations in which internet is shut down in India, and what are the political, economic, emotional, personal ramifications of being in a situation of a shutdown. Not going to say more. Let's watch the films and then we'll come back to questions and talking about the creative process.
2015, the NDA government embarked on the Digital India program, digital infrastructure as a core utility to every citizen, governance on demand, and digital empowerment of citizens.
So while we wait for questions, I think I'll continue to start talking about the project and how I decided to work it as a concept of 3 films. So one of the things I want to say is to actually bring in perspective, which I always love to talk about when I talk about internet shutdowns in India. Let's look at some of the statistics. In 2019, which is the most recent statistic that I had when I started working on the project in 2020, was that we had 121 shutdowns in India in that year. In 2020, we had 132. In 2021, we have 101. And all 3 years, India has topped the world in internet shutdowns. So something to think about is, why do we have such a large number of shutdowns? And the 2019 statistic of 121 shutdowns, India is the first place. Contrast this with who's in the second place. And any guesses? You'd be shocked to know that in second place is Venezuela with only 12 shutdowns in the year. So look at the gap between 121 and 12. So I think that anyone who says that, yes, we need to have internet shutdowns and public order, it should really make you think about why or how are other countries managing similar situations. So with that question, I'll open the floor to questions and then also talk about the films.
Yeah, I had a question, Sandhya, about when you were making this film, and when you showed it to people, what was the general response that you got? Because I was trying to understand what could have been some of the I'm not asking from the government's point of view, but from the citizens' point of view, is there ever any reason or logic for supporting internet shutdowns by the government? Did you find any, even from among people who watched the films or people you spoke to?
I think there's some people who like to support anything the government does and think that there are people who question the government for the sake of questioning. So some of the comments that I got from people who said that, oh, but we do need it, just like we need certain other restrictions so that we always have a stop to rights, like, rights can't go all the way through. Similarly, you have to understand that the internet is a privilege and is a right that you're getting, and you cannot extend it all the way through. So that's, I think, the nature of some of the comments who came. Nobody from the government so far. But a lot of other people were actually not even aware that India has such a high number of internet shutdowns. And I think it just goes to show that how such few of us know what's happening in Kashmir, or have, maybe even taken the trouble to understand what's been happening, because there's been such a complete communication blackout from what the information we received from Kashmir. One of the interesting things I noticed while making this film is I was looking for images. All of it was done through stock footage and finding images online. I needed some images of Kashmir, of the street, of, for that Apple story. Anything that was apart from like the Dal Lake, or I could not get images. And sometimes I would see a thumbnail, but when I would try to click on it, it would say that this visual is not available in your region. So I just found that interesting as another kind of internet ban that's been put on, even obtaining seemingly, harmless images. Yeah.
I had a question, Sandhya, and it's like you just mentioned, the entire film was made using stock footage. I was curious to know, how does using stock footage versus shooting on location, how does that change or influence your creative process as a filmmaker, and how does your engagement with the subject actually get influenced by something like this, by a choice like this?
Okay, thanks, Sumana. So usually, as you know, I do documentary films where we have a very rough script, we go out, we shoot, and then we kind of put the film together during the edit. But here, I was actually really looking forward to working in this 1 minute format. I was trying to say if I can tell these stories in 1 minute. But then I found I had a little bit more text and I was going closer to like 2 minutes. So because I was very clear about what I wanted to say in these, the script came before the hunt for the images. So I think the Apple story is the very first film I started working on, because that was the material that was most kind of, so specific. It was part of this report called the India Siege, which had been done on Kashmir by a whole bunch of civil liberties people. And that had very detailed case studies and interviews with people. So even when I talk about that this is a farmer's apple farm in Shopian, there's all actual material from that document. So then I could start, putting together a script and then hunting for the images. So I think that was the one where it was most specific. The first one, which is disconnection, was the one I had most fun making, because I think there it was quite abstract. It was not getting into specifics, but you wanted to just to communicate how frustrating it can be for someone like you and me, who perhaps don't need it for our trade, in the sense like how this whole Apple industry was affected. Or it might just be a matter of days that we don't have the internet, but we would be at a complete loss at a social and emotional level. Let us aside the economic, we can probably work that out, but even at a social and how you can be completely cut off. And that feeling of waiting. So I think that is what I was trying to play with in the first one. So for me also, this was a completely new process, because I'd never worked with stock footage before. So I was actually having a lot of fun. And I think you need to have another kind of patience, because you keep searching, and you're not getting what you think is going to work. I did end up buying some footage from, I think, either one of these news agencies for the Apple story. And the second film, which is, we used a lot of animation. So we had this Digital India video, with, that voiceover is also a government website. So I kind of inserted it and used it as if somebody was looking at that into a cell phone. So that was used with like special effects and animation. But yeah, so I think for me, it was a departure from my regular documentary stuff, and that's why it was exciting to work on it.
Yeah.
Sandhya,
Okay,
there's one thing I wanted to share when you said, that what for people like us who are not used to it, what happens and how do we react? And I remember when there was this long internet blockades in certain parts of the country. Some of us had launched a kind of a campaign online and with the hashtag internet shutdown. And the request was to go offline for 12 hours on our own account, just to be able to feel what we experience, even for as short a time as 12 hours is, and keep a journal during this time. How many times do you actually reach out for the phone to look at the internet, or how many times do you do that? And we got some really incredible responses from people. Like I did it myself and wrote a little journal, and to just go back and look at those like 20 lines probably. While I was looking at your film, I was again thinking of that time. And we often don't realize how much it has become part of our lives.
Yeah, I mean, I'm amazed you were able to even do that
it was a campaign, so we had to do it, since it was a job to do. But yeah.
I think we have lots of audience questions. Arundhati, you want to start it off?
Okay, I'll take one. Maybe we just take one and then you can take a couple. Yeah, I'll take the first one.
Sure.
So this is coming from Anuja Sharma. Had absolutely no idea this was even happening on this scale. Thank you for spotlighting this. Is there anything we can do to protest this kind of action by the government? And below that, Dr. Geeta Bindal in the same question says, do you think business is more important than safety and sovereignty of India? So they are connected. And I mean, your response, please.
Okay, so I think after I made this film, in the latter half of 2021, a parliamentary standing committee was set up to understand why India had to have so many internet shutdowns. I gave you the example of how Venezuela at second place had only 12. So if you look at one of the films talks about the situations in which we had to switch off the internet. Okay, if you have situations of, say, riots, yes, I understand that maybe it's a very difficult situation and you immediately switch off the internet, but whether we need to put a blanket ban, we'll come back to that. Other situations are like officials visiting, if a dignitary is visiting, if there's a religious festival, like in Kashmir, anytime there's like Eid or Bakrid or any festival, they'll switch off the internet. For public examinations, for some teachers' examination in Rajasthan, because 16,000 people are writing that exam, they use it as an administrative tool to switch off the internet. So for 16,000 people who are writing the exam so that they don't cheat or use their phone to look up for any answers. But imagine the number of people living in this whole state and whole city of like Udaipur, Jaipur, otherwise are also affected by this. So coming back to the fact that this one committee was set up to do an investigation, and it was headed by Shashi Tharoor. And so I think the question they ask is that, can we first begin by describing what is a public emergency? I think we're not very clear on what is a public emergency, which is why we can resort to using something that is an easy tool of control. And the suggestions that were made is that maybe you can block just WhatsApp, you can block Facebook, you can maybe block Twitter, because if that is where you fear that rumors are being spread, but do not block everything. I mean, we also see how citizenship is affected. If there's somebody who's trying to get a passport appointment, somebody's trying to get into Arogya Sethu, somebody's trying to get into anything else which is of prime importance, which you can only do through the internet, then should it be like a collective punishment? I think that's the question to ask.
All right. We have another, I think this is a response. This is Avanti Seth Rabinho saying, just shocked. I was aware that we in India lead the world with internet shutdowns, and one can easily infer the loss of produce, property, and life this might mean. But this clip just brought home how terrible this actually is on the ground. Absolutely. Then we have a question from Kaveri Sahai. Would you like to share how other countries manage adverse situations without shutting down internet at this high a frequency?
So like I said, I think you can target certain sites and websites and reduce access to them for a few hours, but they do not go for a blanket shutdown. And I think that's the difference in why we lead the world in internet shutdowns. Further, like more specific things, I don't know how other countries manage. The only other country which is Myanmar. Myanmar has very high number of longer periods of internet shutdown. But after Kashmir, I think no other country comes close to India for just how long we didn't have internet. And I think what was also eye-opening for me is that after several months in Kashmir, internet was restored. So I was like, okay, internet is restored. But here's where we have to make a crucial difference to understand that 2G internet was restored in Kashmir, not 4G. And when we talk about 2G, it's not only a question of speed. I think one of the films says that it's 2,000 to 20,000 times slower. But it's not only a question of speed. It's actually going back 2 generations in technology. So the whole technology of the internet, the architecture of the internet is different, which is why certain apps which were written for 4G technology and 3G technology will just not open in 2G technology. So I don't know how many of the apps that we have on our phones would have even worked under the 2G technology. So I feel like that was just, just very piecemeal and token to say that, okay, we've given you back some internet.
The next question, Sandhya, comes from Smriti Kopikar. Thank you for presenting this issue in this way. Let's hope more people engage. I want to know if you looked at the intersection of gender and digital shutdowns and whether you have any insights there.
Not specifically. As always, women are more affected in any situation, I think, of when an embargo is put. Because as you know, that in apart from cities and a lot of rural areas, women are not given access to cell phones. It's only the men who are allowed to operate the cell phone because they feel a woman is going to get corrupted if she opens her whole mind to the World Wide Web. So phone to mila hi nahi hai, so then internet embargo might not have perhaps effect. But yeah, I don't know apart from that how it might have had a gender repercussion.
I'll take the next one is a comment really from Deepa Kamath. Absolutely love your use of visual and pause to evoke sensation and empathy.
Thank you, Deepa. I think that is what excites me most to be able to do with film language and visuals. I mean, that is really the core of why I use the medium of filmmaking to communicate the ideas I want to.
So Deepa also has a question. I had expected that China or Russia were the leaders of throttling the internet. I wonder how they compare with India, if you have some sense of that, Sandhya.
So China and Russia probably routinely censor several websites, right? We know that, they don't allow Twitter, Facebook, China. So I think because they just control at such a large level what people can consume on the internet, they are not scared of when they consume what it is that they are consuming. That's my feeling.
Okay. Yeah. Another question from Avanti said, she had asked a question earlier as well. We know there are IT-based solutions that close down communication for a single room or a single building. What do you feel is stopping our education departments from looking at those solutions? I think this is specific to the education and examination time problem that you raised, Sandhya. Why aren't they looking at those kind of solutions is Avanti's question.
Yeah, I think it's a very good question. And I don't know the answer to why it's not being used. Maybe the kind of technology that requires is not in place, where you can very, very specifically, geographically shut down the internet. I don't know the answer to why it's not used. And I think maybe it's just more convenient to switch it off for a few hours during the course of the examination. So it's done like that.
There is one more question, and this has come from the Facebook interface that we are having right now from Malti Mehta, who says, I, being a filmmaker, would like to have the other side of the story. Like, why in Kashmir, Delhi, or Rajasthan? Any incidents reported there? Why did state government have to take such decisions?
Yeah, in Kashmir, after Article 370 was removed, they had a complete communication blackout, complete, not just internet, but even phone lines were stopped and you could not communicate at all. And that went on for actually 100 days or more than 100 days. Yeah. In Assam, it was during the NRC and the protests that were happening to that. In Delhi, also during the anti-CAA protests. In Rajasthan is the only other state where it is somehow used much more by the state government to, maintain law and order. And when they feel that a situation can get difficult, recently when that Kanhailal was executed also, and, in anticipation of riots and law and order getting out of hand, when Article 144 was imposed, at the same time also internet was shut down.
So then, Sandhya, one question comes up looking at these states also. What would happen, say, in a state like Karnataka, where some of us are right now, where there is so much of an IT industry which would just collapse, right, without the internet? Or are we assuming that their use of a certain other kind of system that overrides the government, or does it not? So if, for example, the government decided to shut down the internet in Karnataka, would that mean that all the IT companies also would become like just break their backs for that day? Or would they have the option of using something else? Or would that affect finance and industry in such a way that it would never happen in Karnataka, but it can happen in places where there is not?
My answer is veering towards that it's also such a big political lobby.
Yeah.
That it might not be used because it would probably
be too much at stake.
Kind of the IT industry of the country is probably here.
Yeah.
But if they shut it down, I would assume that they would also get affected, right? Because the service providers are only the handful that we have.
Right.
And all of them are affected by this. There are no other service providers that they would be using.
Yeah.
And that's my understanding. Yeah.
Sumana, you had gone off. I think you had your internet. You had gone off tonight, or was that a performance? You never know with Sumana. It can be a performance. Or this is how it feels.
Yeah.
So would you like to? So Darshana, you are saying it is used in Gujarat too, like Rajasthan, especially around festivals. But do you have any questions?
No, actually, none. I think a lot of the questions already came from the audiences.
Yeah. I have one other question, but this is not so much about the internet shutdown, Sandhya, but as an artist and as a filmmaker, when you engage with a topic like this, what are some of the challenges that you faced? You've talked about some, but I mean to say not just about the content and the problem that you're trying to explore and investigate, but also to make creative decisions, artistic decisions of form that comes with that question of content that you've chosen, right? So you're using a particular way of telling that story. And I was just wondering about if you could share with us a little bit about the process of making the film. How did some of these decisions come about? Because like all artists, I'm sure some came about because of, limitations and constraints of not finding something. But some were like decisions you made because that's how you wanted your film to look. So if you can just share a little bit about your process.
I think from the start, also what I was very clear is that I don't want this to be, I don't want any of my films to be preaching and saying that internet shutdown is bad or internet shutdown is terrible and you should, you're like terrible people who are resorting to using that. I think always the idea with the film is to be able to create empathy so that you then start to think yourself that is this something is there a way where we can live without resorting to something like this? And I think this is because this was the question that's behind this film, and even I think other films where I try to do, it's not about making somebody feel like they are the other. I think that's something I'm conscious about. But how we feel that, okay, can we think about this together? So again, with the apple farmers or with the other film, I think I keep trying to put myself in that place. And so automatically then the process becomes one where it's not like you're looking down or it's not top down. So I think that because it's consciously there, I think it keeps informing all the other decisions that I make, the language that I use to write the script, and the pauses that I give. Even in a 2-minute film, I have created those pauses. It's because I want to have that room for reflection. Yeah. And not pack it down with text. So even here, like how much text you put, so much time is spent over that. And it's shared with so many people to see how it can be edited and brought down to its bare bones so that you can read it and you can assimilate it and you can move on to the next thing. So that, because, you know, with film, it's a linear thing. You don't have time to turn the page and go back and read or see what you've missed. So I think that's an exercise in the creative process, which when you keep making films, I think you also understand how it is viewed. But I think that's what I do. I keep trying to show it to other people to see whether that gap is not there between what you have in your mind and what you hope that the audience is taking back with them.
Yeah. And related to this, I had another question as well. One, Sandhya, is that often any kind of technology, you know, is whether it's the internet or other kinds of surveillance technology, which always becomes tools in the hands of power that can use it for anything, whether it is to watch over you or to, you know, control certain actions, etc. And there have been countries that have tried to have sort of independent arbitrators who will make decisions on the use. So also control the use of those tools by people who are powerful, like the government, whichever government is in place. That has worked and not worked in some places, where the body that actually controls these tools are outside of the government, for example, but not private, but citizens forums, etc., etc. Now, do you think in India, any of those kind of, even there's a hope for any of those kind of forums or decision makers or arbitrators possible, given the nature of how complex our realities are, really, how huge we are, how complex this is, how much political lobbying, industrial lobbying is there? Will it ever be truly arbitrator-like? Is it possible to have no vested interest in a body like that?
I don't want to say I don't think so, because, you know, I feel I'm the eternal optimist.
Yeah.
And I do feel, I mean, there's so many situations in which even the Supreme Court has given rulings and completely overruled what the High Court has done. And I think that there is definitely a group of people in India who have a conscience and who have a way of understanding and interpreting the law, which can be above a majoritarian view of a situation.
Yeah.
But having said that, I think the biggest fear that the government has in the intrinsic nature of the internet, that it goes from user to user. And they can't come in between and control it.
Yeah.
So the only thing they can do is just control all of the internet.
Yeah. Because like once the beast is unleashed, you don't have power over it. So all you can do is like take it out completely. There's a comment from Malti Mehta again from Facebook saying, what I like is the text you used in a very creative manner with posing questions.
Thank you.
So at this point, I also wanted to thank the incredible donors who made the entire 25 by 25 initiative, Sandhya, including your film, possible in that year, which was already tough for all of us. And I know how difficult it was for many organizations like ours to function. So a big thank you to the Kshirsagar Apte Foundation, to Titan Industries, and to Priya Paul and Sethu Vaidyanathan for enabling these 25 projects and being with us, knowing that these are internet projects, this could be risky, this will ask questions that given the nature of the internet, the surveillance, etc., is going to be sometimes political in nature, sometimes exploratory, and sometimes, because they are experiments, they may not even give us the outcome, so to say, that we are deciding at the beginning. But they trusted us. They trusted the 25 grantees, artists, scholars who got these projects. And they were really happy to see when the festival came together and all of you came together. I hope we will share a little bit here, the links from the festival and the conversation you had with one of our staff members. Sumana, was it you that had?
Yes, it was me. Yeah.
So we'll share that as well. So people who are here today who've shown so much interest can also go take a look at that. I don't think we have any audience questions. No.
No more.
No, there are no other.
Yeah.
Sandhya, any parting shots, any reflections after having made the film? You're now almost 2 years away from the making of this one, this set of films, right? Anything you would like to add or say before we call it a day, maybe? Yeah.
No, I'm also shocked that actually 2 years have passed from when
you
made the announcement for these grants. And I think, as always, you've been at the forefront of, taking any situation and making something creative out of it, like how we were all sitting at our homes in the lockdown. And I think for filmmakers, it was like completely at your wit's end because you couldn't go out and shoot.
Yeah.
And the money was so little here, like when we compare it with film budgets, it was 25,000. But I still thought that, there's so much free stuff that's available that if you use that 25,000 to buy 3 tracks of music, to buy those 3 images that you need, which are not free, it's possible to do it. And it's possible to make something that's, powerful, that you're happy with. And I'm really, really grateful that we could do that. And I think the other 24 projects were also so eye-opening and so creative in their methods of art form that they used as well. So thank you, and I hope IFA stays around to keep encouraging all of us.
Thanks so much, Sandhya.
Thank you.
Yeah, wonderful documentary, very thought-provoking. Thank you, Sandhya. That's Avanti Seth again.
Yeah.
If I could request my colleagues at IFA just to maybe share the page for where all the projects of 25 by 25 can be seen, so that our audience knows where to go and look for them on our website. You can look for them under the grant section, project section, where you just put 25 by 25 and you can find all the 25 projects there. Sumana, would you like to then? Yeah,
so with that, I think we can wrap up the conversation today. Thank you, Sandhya. It's deeply, I think it's apt to say that the film is very moving. It is very deeply thought-provoking, and it's something that is so short, but will stay in the minds of the viewers for a very long time, and certainly something that we'll all keep thinking about, reflecting upon for a really long time. And what I really love is that, artistic projects like these, it's often, of course, it is about the money to some extent, but also it's not about the money, or it's not about the largeness of the money. It's really the creative intent. It's the opportunity and what can be done, and how even small monies can like this can go a really long way in creating a space and opportunity and something that is so beautiful. So thank you once again, Sandhya, and thank you for making this evening. Thanks to all our audiences as well. If you have any further thoughts or reflections, you can always write back to Sandhya. You can also write to IFA what you thought about this project, and also maybe the other projects that were supported under 25 by 25, or for that matter, any other project that you've seen supported by IFA.
And you can follow us on, we are on Twitter, we are on Instagram, we are on Facebook, and we are on YouTube. You can follow us and get to know more about us. You can sign up for the newsletter as well. And every month we come back with project showcases. So wait for us to make the announcement for the next month, which will be the August showcase.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much and good night.
Good night.
Right.